Hello aspirants, myself Dr. K. Rajshekar from Excellence IAS. Recently I have written UPSC exam, prelims exam, and we have noticed how questions have been asked in the exam, and this is my attempt as a science and technology faculty to tell you how these questions have been reflected from the classroom programs and rapid revision programs and the daily practice test we give it to students. So in other video we already talked about the trend in the exam. We have seen that this time we got questions indeed more than expected from science and technology. From the core area we got over 12 questions and over 15 questions including the current affairs part. So very good number, and those who have prepared well for the science and technology have done well in this part. And especially we have seen 4 questions coming from the defense, 4 questions coming from the information and communication technology, and 2 from biotechnology and 1 from space technology, and energy we got question on green hydrogen and other miscellaneous things like black box, deep ocean mission, etc. So these things definitely came from the core themes we have expected. I'll show you the evidences with respect to that. For example, if you notice the question on blockchain technology, for which in the rapid revision program, the program that happens a few months before the final exam, where we quickly revise students the important areas and core themes in the subject. I have done this as part of rapid revision program and under different themes: biotechnology, space technology, defense, energy, information technology, like that. Here we are looking into a screenshot of what we discussed in the classroom in information technology, under information technology, where if you notice the topics or statements that are given here, they are asking about features of blockchain technology, where records stored in the database may be made visible to relevant stakeholders without risk of alteration. And indeed it is exactly what we got from this image. Records stored in the database may be made visible and stakeholders without risk of alteration. The source that I have used here is very similar to the source that have been used by the examiner that you notice. Copies of the entire database are stored on the multiple computers on a network, syncing within seconds. Okay, we notice the same idea here. So copies of the entire database are stored and they sync within minutes or seconds. Consortium blockchain is a blend of public and private blockchains allowing selective data access, which I have not discussed as part of the discussion, which in the elimination we could remove. So statement number 4, mathematical algorithms make it impossible to change or delete any data once recorded or accepted. That is exactly what this statement says, identical to this statement. So 3 out of these 4 statements have come from this, and we know third statement may not be right. If you are not sure, those students who are confused about statement 3, there is only option with 1 and we know the rest of the statements are right. So we don't even have a confusion to choose this. So clearly it is 1 to 4 that became the answer here. Exactly mimicking with what we discussed in the classroom. Next one is about the question on National Quantum Mission. Okay, 2 statement question here. They asked, the mission is developing 52,000 physical quantum bit based quantum computers in the country. And the second one, implementation includes setting up 4 thematic hubs, T-hubs, in academic and national R&D institutions. This is a slide, page number 27 in the ICT theme that we discussed in the class, where we talked about quantum computers with 52,000 quantum bits are going to be made as part of this mission. And these are the 4 thematic hubs that are created in the country. So 2 statements clearly reflected from this idea, straightforward, easy to answer. Next, green hydrogen, question on green hydrogen. This is also I covered after ICT, information and communication technology, where the question is about this mission, which is very much expected in the exam. And here they ask the first 2 statements about how green hydrogen is made. First statement being wrong, second statement being suggesting that it is made using renewable energy through hydrolysis process. In the classroom we discussed green hydrogen is made through electrolysis and using renewable energy source. So statement clearly reflects what we discussed. And then they asked one of the targets, National Green Hydrogen Mission of India, focusing on abatement of nearly 50 million metric tons of annual greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. That is exactly what we see here, 5 MMT of green hydrogen produced annually, and then 50 MMT of greenhouse gas emissions avoided. These I generally believe are the important targets, important facts to remember, which has been reflected from this. And next, if you see question on AI, this is about machine learning and large language models. They asked 3 statements, they have given 3 statements here, and statements are talking about the idea of how machine learning works and how mathematical optimization is used in correcting it, and asking a statement on whether this product is always biased or unbiased. So I didn't specifically discuss this way in the classroom, but we talked about the idea behind machine learning, saying we use statistical methods to enable machines to improve with experience, improve with learning. That is where probabilities, high probability one will be picked up compared to the low probability one. That is how statistics work. And then the process thinks through mathematical optimization to minimize prediction errors, but still it is called prediction. In that sense, would it give rise to unbiased outputs? In the AI dangers I discussed about data quality and bias is a big problem with AI, the first point in that. So when you summarize this kind of information about the idea behind the technology and the limitations of the technology, those kind of statements are being asked in the exam. Next question is about tokenization. They are asking about real world assets tokenization. Here again conceptually they asked about how tokens, what are tokens, how tokens are made. Real world objects or assets are taken, converted into digital versions. Okay, and as part of again same ICT, information communication technology, we talked about non-fungible tokens, where we talked about here blockchain based digital assets. Blockchain based digital assets are created from the things like digital art, collectibles, etc. So real world assets are converted into this using blockchain technology. And then the other two we have to derive from this understanding. If information is available online like this, is it accessible 24/7? This is something student could derive. And then tokenization, would it provide us high growth investment opportunities for individuals in India with less restrictions, with more possibilities reaching people in any corner of the country? Definitely, that is a benefit of any online tool, and that is the case with this as well. Next question, a very well expected question. I have been telling my students that Samudrayan mission, when I teach space technology, we discuss after that. There is also a mission focusing on exploring deep oceans. Deep ocean exploration mission. The statements I asked here, the ministry, which ministry is responsible for this? Clearly, it's Ministry of Earth Sciences we discussed in the classroom. And then Matsya 6000 has been designed to carry 3 people for deep space exploration. This is called Matsya 6000. This is the vessel that NIOT Institute had created for this purpose. And Samudrayan is a project under this mission. That is the title of this. So 3 statements students could easily understand and answer. Next, India space program. Another thing from the different theme, space technology theme we discussed as part of rapid revision program. So they asked 3 statement based question here, one about INSPACE, Indian National Space Promotion Authorization Center. It's an autonomous agency formed to facilitate private participation. Okay, directly this part I have discussed. I have discussed in the one of the classroom test, daily prelims practice test, DPP we call. After every class we do give 10 questions to the students to revise, to understand the exam dimension as well as to practice what they studied. As part of that, I have given this question on INSPACE, asking what is the purpose or role of INSPACE? Facilitator and a regulator for recruiting private players working under, giving a wrong statement here, Department of Space Technology, Science and Technology, asking them whether they understand it or not, and asking a question on its primary role in promoting private sector participation, particularly with respect to launch vehicle manufacturing, etc. So that is something you notice is being reflected here. INSPACE is an autonomous agency formed to facilitate participation of the private entities. Then Agnikul Cosmos and Skyroot companies I have asked about, both are standing out with respect to the private companies serving space sector. We have seen Agnikul Cosmos creating India's first 3D printed rocket engine. They asked that component here. Indeed, that is also world's first 3D printed rocket engine. That is how it has been promoted in the newspapers. Third statement, Skyroot Aerospace has developed liquid fuel for GSLV. GSLV is built by ISRO, and Agnikul and Skyroot companies are building their own launch vehicles here. So they are not helping ISRO to build a better engine. This is something students have to derive from the kind of products they are building here. Okay, next question, this is on stealth technology. I believe this is one very important idea when we talk about defense technologies. So I generally teach students about how stealth component works. I have also given them a question to answer this. In the exam we have seen 3 statement based questions where they are asking stealth objects have a very small radar cross section and are coated with radar absorbing material. And in the practice question I have given to the students asking what stealth technology is. It is designed by, or it is stealth technology works by designing aircraft and equipment to absorb or deflect radar waves, reducing detectability. So clearly we are reducing radar cross section by coating things with radar absorbing materials. Remaining 2 we have to derive, because how stealth works, information is traveling in specific frequencies. because we have to have some mode of communication that is happening here, and then stealth objects are coated with metamaterials. This is something very specific. They ask, coating with metamaterials, would it increase or decrease the scattering process? Both ways, because generally you deflect the material in order to reduce the signal, or you can have absorbing material like metamaterials which can reduce the scattering. So these things you notice in the question, and the statements can be easily derived from this kind of discussions that happen in the classroom. Okay. Next one is about swarm drones. 3 statement question. They asked in which region they communicate, terahertz band, whether they use the asked here. And second statement, individual drones in the swarm can communicate with other drones in the swarm, as a group they work. That is what you notice here in the, again, a daily prelims practice question that we have given. Swarm drones consist of multiple drones working in coordination to achieve a common object. In the process they are communicating with each other, and whether they can be autonomously working or can they individually work. Those dimensions we asked in the classroom, and here they asked about whether they communicate or not. These 2 statements we have not particularly discussed in the class. In this question we can learn that the medium of communication, this idea can come from other communication technologies as well, like 5G, 6G technologies where we talk about. In 6G they are introducing terahertz frequency bands, otherwise terahertz is not frequently used. If you know in communication sector this is not much used, you can eliminate this option and second becomes right. Third one has been in use for a long time, GPS spoofing, where in countering drones what happens, drone technology we notice that we can misguide them by sending different navigation signals. That is something that has been also asked here. So this question we have touched as a core idea, we touched in the classroom program. And then next question is about question from biotechnology on Genome India project. I very much expected this question in the exam, because Genome India project is one of the prestigious projects of India where we focused on genome sequencing process, and they asked about under which department it is done, whether it is part of human genome project or not, and what is the primary objective. In the classroom we discussed that Genome India project is done by Department of Biotechnology, is carried out by Department of Biotechnology. That is clear in the second statement we talked about. Before discussing Genome India, I talk about Human Genome Project, which is an American project, international project run by America, not by India. We were not part of that kind of project at that time because it finished in 2003. Our work started later. So clearly it is not related to Human Genome Project, related to India's Genome Project, and done by Department of Biotechnology, where we focused on sequencing 10,000 Indians from diverse backgrounds. And the third statement is talking about that primary aim is to build catalog or reference genome to build genetic diversity of the Indian population, to represent genetic diversity of Indian population. Clearly that is the objective. So it is not going away. Sometimes students say that these questions are probably, the statements are random. They are not random. There is a clear precedence to this, how they are asking it. That's something you have to understand. Next question is about genetic medicine. We discussed this in the classroom as part of gene therapy. Again, I have taken this snapshot from the RRP Rapid Revision program. We also discussed this in detail in the classroom program as well, also part of the anthropology classes, where how gene therapy is done, how genetic medicine is given. We correct functional copy of the gene. We correct defective gene by transferring a functional copy of the gene. That is the first statement. It corrects or compensates for the faulty genes responsible for a disease. Clearly we add that gene. And engineered viruses and lipid nanoparticles are used as carriers. It is not reflected on the slide here, but generally I say viruses are commonly used because they know how to infect us, how to carry DNA, like HIV viruses can be re-engineered and used. They become the main vectors here. Third statement, genetic medicines alter the entire DNA sequence. Clearly from the first statement we know we are adding one piece of gene. We are not modifying the entire DNA. So third statement conceptually becomes incorrect. That's how students could derive answers to this. Okay, so in my opinion, yes, this exam is unpredictable. There are things that are asked outside what we generally expect. But when you have right understanding of the demand of the exam, when you consistently use the right resources and follow disciplined guidance, adding to your smart preparation, then success will happen. Otherwise, I understand it is frustrating to see things as you study are not coming, but there is a problem in the way we approach to that. I feel very happy that as a science and technology faculty at Excellence, I have been able to guide you in the direction where it is reflecting in the exam. I hope you will make use of this and will achieve success. Thank you.